Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. Today, we are going to be looking at the New Mutants 42 from 1986. I have a playlist. I started covering New Mutants from issue number 1. I have every issue to current in that playlist. Feel free to give that a look. I've also have an X-Men playlist where I have all the Uncanny X-Men. I started with classic X-Men number 1, which covered Giant Size X-Men number 1, and I have been covering all of them in order as well. So everything's in reading order. And then I have an X Universe playlist where I cover X-Men, New Mutants. I have the Wolverine limited series, the Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, bunches of stuff. So everything is done in reading order. So if you truly want to be X-Men savvy during the Chris Claremont era, that's the place to go. I've also started covering X Factor, so I have a playlist for that as well. Again, feel free to check those out. So this period of time was my favorite for me. I love Chris Claremont. I love and basically this is what I want. I want to cover the Chris Claremont era. So we eventually are gonna cover the Wolverine regular series. We're gonna get to the Excalibur when the time comes. So everything is done in reading order. So this issue, though, will not take too long. I'm not gonna read it word for word. It is extremely wordy. First of all, this cover by Barry Windsor Smith. I don't know why he didn't sign things during this era, but Barry Windsor Smith is one of the best. I love his coloring. This dude is great. This is a Cannonball solo story. So the previous issue, number 41, was Mirage, and now we're in Cannonball. So, all right. So we are going to start with something Chris Claremont has been doing an awful lot of. First of all, the title, New Song for Old. And Sam is in an alien world. And it says lives are sorry. And it says here, the world is alien, the situation is not. Lives are at stake, and only Cannonball and the New Mutants can save them. So here we have Chris Claremont, Jackson Guice. Kyle Baker is an excellent artist. He is, in my opinion, a better inker than penciler, but I love the thick brushes. He's painting type stuff, so very Bill Sienkiewicz, very Steve Lealoha on his inks, and you're gonna notice a lot of Bill Sienkiewiczisms on it. And I think Marvel was trying to get Bill Sienkiewicz type people for cheaper, because there's a lot of that. We have a different colorist, Tom Rzakowski, lettered this thing, and when you look at how many words are in here, you're gonna this guy deserves a medal. And of course, Anna Senti Jim Shooter is still in the editorial. Starring the New Mutants, really it's only Cannonball, created by Chris Claremont and Bob McLeod. So Tom Rzakowski, by the way, has lettered every issue of Spawn. And Todd McFarlane is also very, very wordy. However, the dude now is a digital based on his own writing, or his own letter style. So, all right. So this starts off as a dream, and so he's helping take care of these ships. Lila Cheney is in this story, so she's gonna be here. So There's this Air Force, and Lila Cheney's playing here with her band, and here's Sunspot, and I suspected something because Sunspot had left to go home, and I was like, how the hell did? And I was like, did I miss something? And because I haven't read these issues in forever, so as I was looking, I'm like, what the hell? And so there's Magma. Because last we left the New Mutants by themselves, they were back at the mansion, but like I said, Sunspot had left. And there's Lila, and then this is Dazzler playing the keyboards, by the way, with the black hair. You'll see later. Rescues Magma again. These alien creatures. This is a dream, so you guys know how I feel about dreams. I just kind of go over because most of the time it's filler. And the reason it's filler is because this issue is a lot of talking, because that's what Chris Claremont does, and because there's a lot of talking, there isn't too much action. So he has to put the action somewhere. So he creates a dream sequence so he can put the action. So suddenly, they're at his house, and they were kissing, and they're caught by his mother, who's like, "Who is this person? What are you doing, Mama? Let me explain." "Oh, Samuel, how could you hurt me so?" And she's like, "Oh, she's locked me out. Lila, she's gone. What have I done?" And he wakes up and he's in a bus. He's riding a bus to Kentucky. Love the screen tones being applied here. And he's worried about Lila going over this dinner and introducing her to his mom. So he's worried about that. And it's like, here, what will Mama think of her? And so they're in Cumberland, Kentucky. He's on the Greyhound bus, and so he stops and he says he's home. By the way, this is kind of where he is, and so he's got his bag. He's gonna make a phone call here, back in the phone booth back in the day, and he calls the XMen mansion, and it goes into not voicemail, I'm sorry, the answering machine. There was no voicemail back in that day, and he's letting them know that he made it safe. And then he calls Lila, who's on her tour bus here, and they asked if she's still on for Sunday dinner, and she's like, yep. And then asked her if she can see her tonight in Charlotte, and he says sure. And then he's like, oh man, what have I got myself into? And I love those color holds here of her and Sam here. So these two are a couple, if you remember. And so he walks out and uses his powers. He says it's early. No one on the street should be safe enough, except for, this here. So he is, by the way, I've been to Kentucky. There are no mountains like this. They have the Appalachians. They're a little bit more rugged. They're not like this, but hey, that's all right. And so he's going to go to the cemetery to go see his dad, and he feels a little guilty for having left his family here, and he's also the oldest of the New Mutants. And so he's like, I'm firstborn head of household. Their welfare is my responsibility. So I love how they don't really put the date, but you can see 38. So 1938 to 1980 something. So, all right. And so he talks to his dad and about Magneto. And yes, I say Magneto, not Magneto. Everybody that says Magneto is incorrect. If it was Magneto, there'd be two E's. But how am I to, people already are used to that. But anyway, so he's talking to his dad, kind of giving everybody a catch up as to what's been happening with the New Mutants throughout there. So a lot of exposition here. And so he talks here about Lila Cheney and all that kind of stuff. And then his mom shows up here. And so she was talking to Layla, and he's like, I suppose, what if Mama doesn't like her? And of course, she must be a nice girl, Samuel, else you wouldn't like her. So then she says, she's good enough for you. Why not for me? So they talk for a little bit, help him with the stuff, and they're going. So is the dad buried, or is a cemetery near their house or something? I don't know. Or is they buried in the land here? So they go through, and there's all the kids. So, and I think the blonde girl is gonna be what is her face? Oh, she was in Gen X. I forgot her name, but she was Sam's sister. And so he's looking for Josh, who happens to be a redhead. So all the kids have different hair color here. And so he's the littlest of them, and Josh is paying no attention to Sam. And so Sam says, "What's eating him?" So the mom explains, things are very hard at his age. He tries hard, but it sometimes gets worse. And he's doing really poor in his grades and becoming more withdrawn and moody. And then he says, "Why?" Or Cannibal asks why. And he says he's terrified of becoming like him. He means a mutant. So, and of course, they talk about mutants because hey, that's what Chris Claremont does. It's from that Jim Shooter mandate. This is somebody's first comic book, so give him as much information as needed. So Chris Claremont loves to do that. So, all right. And so now we go to Charlotte, North Carolina, and he flies out to go see Lila. And this is where we meet Dazzler here. And he says, "Allison, you changed your hair." She says, "I'm in disguise." He says, "Looking good. Still dazzling the audiences." And Dazzler says, "Whenever Lila lets me." This is going to be, as you all know, in X-Men 214, Dazzler will be possessed by Malice after the mutant massacre. And then once she's able to defeat Malice, then she joins the X-Men. So, and then she remains with the X-Men for almost till the end of the Chris Claremont run. So, not quite, but almost all of it. So, all right. And so Sam thinks here he's glad things are turning out for her. She's been through some rough times, but Lila brought her into the band, and her mutant power provides the show's light effect. So, and Lila comes through, and she slobbers all over Sam. This is actually a great panel here, and she yells his name, Sam. And so she teleports away because she's going to give Sam a present for her mom for when they go to dinner. And he goes through, and she's like, how can she teleport like that? Maybe someone will see her, and then she'll be ruined like Allison. So this is a present for her. And then he wants to know where he stole it from, because remember, she's a thief. This is going to lead to a fight, of course, for a breakup, because this is, of course, why not more drama? So he's like, how can you give my mom something stolen, and this and that, and she's, so they're going to fight over this. And you can see that she starts to cry, and she says, we had a fun ride, Sam. I should have lasted longer and ended better. Goodbye. And he leaves like this, like, arr. So, don't worry. We'll see how this story ends. So now the next day here at the farm here, and here is his little brother who's not talking to anybody. And so Sam talks to him, and he's like, who do you think? As if you really cared. And he leaves. And so part of the problem will be coming up is that Sam left them all alone. And it's more than just his mutant powers that's upsetting this kid. Is that Sam left them, and his mom and the kids have had to really struggle without them. And he's saying, I left because I had a chance at doing something, at getting a future, and that's not good enough for Josh. And he even says here, uh, take one look at me, ask who I've been fighting, and then mutter about how I ain't half the student or man my big brother was. Ain't that a crying shame? So I guess he's also tired of being compared to his brother here. So, and I told you there's a lot of words in this issue. I'm telling you, if I were to read word for word on this thing, I'd be here an hour. So, he was reminiscing about being in school, about playing baseball there, just reminiscing about life, and thinking about how it ended with Lila, and even in here, Criminy, I've met gods, meaning when they went to Asgard here. So, um, his kids are coming through, and there's his brother playing the guitar, and he's blessed with looks and a voice to match. So, his mom comes in, and so he says, he's been looking at the town, and it's like an old shoe that you put it on, but instead of fitting, you realize that your foot changed shape, and now it hurts because he's not the same person that left. And some people feel that way. I've always said coming home actually is the other way, because you think about stuff, and you reminisce, and normally you're reminiscing unless you had a horrible childhood. When you go home, it's actually pretty cool, especially when you live. It's one thing if you live in the same town that you were born in and grew up in, but if you've moved away and you go home, it's different. I reminisce all the time because I live thousands and thousands of miles from where I was born and where I grew up. So I grew up in Puerto Rico and in Florida, down in the Orlando area. But now I live in the Midwest. So you know, going home is kind of like wow. I used to look at the places where I went to if I when I visit, I just I don't know, it's pretty cool. So all right, so we're gonna kind of move this along. A lot of talking, a lot of talking, a lot of talking, a lot of talking, because that's what Chris Claremont. Anyway, Josh goes, there's a call for you, Sam, on the CB truck. The guy says an emergency. Some English fella named Ben Cockling, and he says that's one of Lila's bands. Told me your girl's friend plane is missing. He's afraid it crashed. So they're gonna drive to wherever it is that they are, and so he's got to cover a lot of territory. So she parks. He puts on his uniform, and his brother hands on him, and he's like, "This is stupid. I feel like a baby," as he takes off here. And so, because he's Josh wants to help him, so and he asks if he regrets it. He's like, "No, sir, this is fantastic and never flown before." So they go through. They find the plane, and so they're going to go see uh, what they can find. And Sam feels horrible because of the way that things were left between them. And he's like, "Okay, darling, please be okay." And he sees the light. That's of course Dazzler giving a signal of where they are. And so she goes, and they gets Dazzler, and then they get Lila, and there's Lila, and he's like, "How's Lila?" And Dazzler's like, "What do you care, Sam? How could you be so rotten after she went through to get that gift for your mother? I wish I had someone to care and do as much for me. It took Leela a month to mine the crystal and longer still to carve it. The slightest mistake anywhere along the way would have shattered to dust." And then, of course, he's like, "She made it, didn't steal it." Oh my God, that's so. This thing is gonna fall, and so he uses his power. He's invulnerable, and anybody he holds on to is invulnerable. And we get here to the whole putting them down. He's like, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, please forgive me." And she's like, "You're lucky I'm the forgiving type when it comes to the man I love." So they get a gentle kiss, and then we get finally to the last page. Leela's kind of changes what she looks like. There's the present, and then she goes and changes again. Now she looks all professional, and off they may go to meet the mom. Next getting even. So I kind of narrated it. I apologize, but as I mentioned before, if I was to read this thing word for word, we'd be here an hour. So, The New Mutants, number 42, Chris Claremont, Jackson Guice, and Kyle Baker in the inks. Fantastic inks. I really love them. Like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.